Um, um, Word of caution. Uh, this one is fairly dark, so if you're triggered by self-harm and, suicide, you might want to skip this one. It's a fairly weird story, so anyway, you have been warned. Fred was just getting out of bed, and even if he didn't feel very well, for some reason he couldn't remember, he decided to go into the kitchen. For apart from his pounding head, he felt the faint rumble of an empty stomach. Opening the fridge, the first thing he saw was the butter. Fred looked at the butter. The butter looked back at him. Suddenly it started to scream. Unimpressed, Fred shut the fridge. "Nope," he said, feeling his legs wobble. Bathroom. He needed a bathroom. Switching on the light, he stopped dead. The walls and floor warped and changed in a strange way. Fred did his best to ignore his surroundings. He felt like shit all of a sudden. Washing his hands, he wanted to take a look at the mirror, but the bloody thing was blind. Someone had written something on it in black. Somewhere from all around him, a deep, demonic voice called out and read the words,
"You look fine."
"Very well," the student muttered, "if you say so," although he had no idea who "you" was. Back in the kitchen again, Fred was reminded of being famished. He had no urge to open the fridge again lest he wanted to hear the screaming butter, so he decided to check the freezer. His clumsy hands needed a few attempts to grab, and his ability to read had apparently gone out the window, which is why he took the package showing the picture of meatballs. Opening the package, Fred noticed that he still needed a pan. He was about to go through the kitchen to find one when a sudden weakness forced him to sit on a chair. His head was spinning like crazy. Feeling detached from reality as if in a dream, he stared at the open package. Something very strange was happening. The food was moving. One after another, the meatballs hopped out into the open. There they did not stop, though. They hopped all over the counter to some green stuff. What the fuck? And then it came back to him, for the meatballs were eating his remaining weed. "Am I high?" Fred only uttered in confusion. "Most probably, yes." Startled, the student looked around to find the owner of the voice similar to his own. "You won't find me," it said. "I'm in your head. Your subconscious, if you like." "Okay, what?" "You are doing some pretty dumb shit here. One of us needs to make sure it won't happen again." "It's very confusing to talk to nothing but thin air. Can't you just, I don't know, show yourself?" "Show yourself," the voices muttered, and Fred almost saw some hazy figure shaking its head upon hearing the absurd idea. "Over here, come on, that trip won't last all day." The voices called from the living room. There on the sofa lay the main character of his favorite anime. "You are an anime character?" Fred felt his jaw drop to the ground, unable to make any connections in his foggy state of mind. "No," the character uttered, sitting up. "You imagined me as an anime character because you watched that stuff far too often recently." "What's wrong with anime?" "Anime is not the point. You are stoned and talking to an animated character in your living room. Do you really need me to say more?" Fred scratched his head. He had been rather disinterested in his outer life lately, but studies went well and he just needed some time away from reality. "What do you care?" "I am your subconscious. I care that you don't care. It's my job." "Look, I'm fine." Fred stopped mid-sentence when he saw dancing cats outside on the street. Getting closer to the window, he saw how the birds joined in. Like in some strange musical, they danced and sang. "You sure?" his subconscious remarked, standing next to him. "Yeah," the student replied. Can't you just spill the beans? I don't do spilling beans. This is your story. You write it. You need to figure it out. Then why bug me at all? Fred yelled, gesticulating wildly with his arms. Because you aren't aware of it all going down south. My life is fine, is it? His subconscious raised an eyebrow. Nope, we are not going back there. Fred raised one index finger and turned to go back into the kitchen. He was starving, yet when he wanted to take out the heavy pan to fry the meatballs, his hand gave out. A burning pain surged through his arm and the pan fell to the ground with a loud clattering noise. Scared, the meatballs kept hopping around. Holding his arm, Fred noticed blood on his hands and on the ground. A long wound parallel with the veins in his arm oozed blood continuously. What the? Yes, life is good to you. You have shallow friends, a few and not too many. Your parents help you with the finances and you are a very promising student. There's no reason for you to be unhappy. His subconscious stepped closer as outside the sky darkened with a coming storm. And yet, you did it. Getting a towel, Fred tried to stop the bleeding, but the red liquid just kept coming and his own panic didn't help in calming down either. Through the fog of the drugs, his last action finally reached the student. He had smoked a lot of weed on purpose in hope of dying of an overdose, but nothing happened, and when he started to fear that his attempt was failing, he got a knife to make it quicker. Because suicide, like other people, wasn't inside the boundaries of what he was capable of. He was too scared, too pathetic, or too cowardly to do it in a sober state of mind. He hated the world around, reality, people, and a future where he would be someone else's property 8 hours a day. It wasn't right to take so much from the people, to make them waste life in a business if they could be so much more on their own, if they would be free to follow their intuition. The sound of his door being broken open let Fred whip around. 2 men came to drag him away. No! Let go of me! Why did you do it, Fred? How could you? His subconscious only accused him as he cried out for help. The men seemed deaf or unwilling to talk. They just dragged him out of his home, out of his safe haven and into a medical van. Why did you do it? The voices kept echoing around the student as he was strapped to a bed. One of the men injected him with something, and before he knew it, his world turned black. Why did you do it? It was the first sentence he heard when he woke up. His parents sat next to his bed, one to the left, the other to the right. His mother showed red eyes from crying, and his father wore a stern but worried expression. Why did you do it, son? Fred answered without deciding to. Because I'm scared. I don't want this life. I want another one, and I'm too scared to achieve it, because I am afraid to fail. Tears started to form in Fred's eyes as he reflected upon his feelings, and the words just kept pouring out of his mouth. He had wanted to study, but it had grown exhausting. He was forced to keep it up since he would need a job if he wanted to become a successful person. But at the same time, his soul was crying out. He wanted to achieve great things. He wanted to change the world, to help people, but somehow this wasn't the right way for him. And he didn't know what the right way would be. His own confusion scared him in times where one had to decide quickly and firmly. He wasn't made for a fast-paced world. His mind needed time to know what it wanted, but the world kept pressuring him into a role because no one cared about his need for time. Fred looked at his bandaged arms. He had been selfish and foolish. He had almost thrown away his chance to live. He understood now why his subconscious had been so betrayed by his actions. It was a shameful thing to kill oneself to escape the danger of failure, to escape the toughness of living. He didn't want to die. He wanted to live a meaningful life. There was only one way to accomplish that. face it. Make the few right choices. He wouldn't have to get rich or famous, but he had to gather the courage to live the life he desired. What does one care for the world's opinions? Once you die, they won't regret your wrong choices. You do.